Hi, in lesson 1 we're going to run through the if, then, else-if, else statements. So for this we're going to create a commission calculator. So if we right click on the solution, go to add, new project. In the templates, hopefully if you've gone through beginner level 1, you'll have a Windows form app in Visual Basic as a recent project template. If you haven't, just search the templates for that project type. We'll click next, we're going to call it commission calculator, and I'm just going to stick it in the same folder as the solution. Click next. Now we have to pick the framework that we want to use. So I'm just going to use the latest one that's out at the minute, that's in long-term support, which is .NET 8. 9's out at the minute and you can test with that, but it is a preview version, and there's not much point in using the old versions if we're brand new to the .NET language. So it'll take a few seconds to create the project, and then hopefully the form should pop up. Now I've been having problems where the form loads and then errors. If it does for you, just either restart the VS application, or you can close down the solution and reopen the solution. So as you see here, I'm going to close the form first, close the solution, save the solution, and then I'm actually going to close Visual Studio as well. Reopen it, wait a few seconds for it to load, and then we'll reopen the project that we're working on. So while we wait for that to load, we're going to basically build a tool that allows for calculate the commission for a sales rep. So if we double click on the form and wait for that to load, we'll pin the toolbox because we're going to be adding a couple of controls to this, and hopefully, if we cross our fingers, the form will load in a second. Now we have a form. It's quite large. I don't need it this large for this course, so I'm just going to resize it a little. And first off, we need a couple of controls. Now we've used the text box control in a previous lesson, so we can just double click on that, it'll pop it in the top left, and we can move this over to where we need it. And then a label, instead of double clicking, you can click and drag and move it onto the form. So I'm just going to use the anchoring to anchor the label in line with the control, and then we'll start renaming some of these, because text box 1 isn't a great name for control, so we'll change that to sales amount. And then for the label, we're going to just put sales. So if we scroll down to the text property, and you'll see that it says label 1, we can change that to sales. Nice colon, and there we have a sales text box control that we can type in a sales amount. Now there's a few more controls that we need to make this form work, so I'm going to highlight them, Control C, Control V, and then we're going to rename them to, this one will be com rate, so the commission rate for that sale. Rep, they all have a different commission rate, so we want to be able to set that depending on who it is. And then finally, for these types of controls, we want another text box and label, and this will calculate the actual commission that is provided to this sales rep. So we'll rename the text label on that, and then the text box will rename to commission. To be able to perform this action, we need a button, so we'll double click, add a button, and then we'll rename this. Now to follow on with Rich's conventions, we'll call it calculate, and then the type of control it's a button, so calculate button. And then button 1 isn't a great text value for this, it's not really telling us what the button's going to do, so we'll write that as calculate. And you can change the size of the button if you want, line it up with the current controls, but you can make the form as pretty as you want. We did a little bit of form design in the previous lesson, so we showed how you can change the back colour and maybe the button colour, but I'll leave that up to you as this isn't part of this lesson. Now, as we have with VB6, if we double click on the button, it'll go to the code behind. To make the screen a little easier to read, I'm going to unpin the toolbox so we can see more of the code, and then I'm going to take the code as it was in VB6 and just show the differences. So as you can see, we're getting an error. We can't times or multiply together these text boxes, and that's also because it's not actually getting the value of the text box. So we need to actually say the property that we want to set. So the commission text box has a property called text, much like the label, and we want to set that to the sales amount times the com rate. But again, text box doesn't have a value because it's an object, so we want to get the text value from each of those. And because that's text and it's a string, we actually want to convert this to a number. So the simplest way we can do this is just using the val function. There are other methods we can use, and I'll go through those in future lessons, but for now this will work for this simple example. So we only have one project in this solution, so the default project is the one that's in this solution. We'll press play so it'll build the app. As you can see from the output, it's running various different things in the background, and then it'll display on the screen. I have two monitors, so it was on my default monitor, and I've just dragged it across. And we can type in some values. So we'll do sales of £100 or dollars, and our commission rate is 5%. And when we calculate, we can see that it's taken those values, converted them, and then times them together and put the value back into the commission text box. So 5% of 100 is $5, and it's showing in the form. So this is great. We can see that this is possible to do for any values we want, but we're actually going to make it a bit easier and add in a sales rep. So to do this, I need some new controls. So I'm going to reorder the form. I'm going to move the commission rate down, and I'm going to add a new sales rep control here. So like before, we want to rename the text box, and this will be sales rep, and then we're going to set the text label of the label itself to be sales rep. Now, why do we want to do this? Well, this is because for each sales rep, we're going to have a different commission rate be automatically populated. So if we double click on the calculate button, we can do this with the concept of the lesson, the if then statement. So we're going to say if sales rep dot text is equal to Mike, then we're going to want to do something. So the new concepts in this lesson are the if statement, the then statement, and the end if. So we're saying if the sales rep value in the form is Mike, then we'll want to do something. And what is that? Well, we're going to set the com rate to be a particular percentage. So for Mike, we're going to say 5%. So we'll save that. We'll run the app again. Wait for it to load. And when it's loaded, I'll put it on the screen. So we'll say for Mike, if a sales of 100, when we calculate, it said, is the text value in that sales rep Mike? Yes, it is. So we're going to populate the com rate at 5% and calculate the value as before. So that's great. We've got Mike at a particular commission rate. Now, what if we add a different sales rep? For instance, we're going to have Sue. So sales rep text we're going to check if it's Sue, and we're going to set the com rate to be a different percentage. This time it's going to be 6%. So we'll save that, and we'll rerun the form. So we'll build the form in the background, load up the form, and we can double check if Mike has a sales amount of 100, he's getting 5% back. If we change it to Sue, we can see that it's gone through the if statement. It's not matched Mike, but it has matched Sue, so we're getting 6% and $6 back. Now, if we would add more and more users or sales reps to this application, this is a lot of lines of code to repeat. So for this, we can actually get rid of the end if and the if, and we can change this to an else if statement. So we've just got rid of a few lines of code, but as you can see, if this was more and more users, it would save quite a lot of lines. If we rerun the form, it'll automatically save it, compile it, and run it. And then if we stick in Mike and sales of 100, you can see that it's still working as before. We've refactored the code, but we're getting the same output that we expected. So we've covered the if then end if, the if then else if then end if. The last one we're going to cover in today's lesson is just else. So say we have another user, for instance Joe, and we put him in. We can give him a specific value, but you might want to cover other sales reps. Now you might not know what their commission rate is, or you might want to set every other sales rep other than Mike, Sue and Joe to default to 0 because they don't deserve extra commission for some reason. You can then do just an else instead of an else if, and it's basically a catch-all statement. So it'll say if the sales rep name isn't Mike, Sue or Joe, let's just give it com rate of 0. So we'll build the app again, press the play button, we'll put in a sales rep of me. I've sold something for 100, and when I've pressed calculate, it's not found my name in this list, so it's set it to 0, so that means I get 0 commission. So that's it for lesson 1. Thanks very much.